so I really don't want to be that guy, but...
No Man's Sky, you know nothing about this game. You don't know what the gameplay is going to be about, you don't know what you're going to do. What they're pushing is that they have like 100 billion procedurally generated planets, and they're like, that's not good, that is terrible. Whenever you hear the word procedurally generated, walk away, because it means they came up with some stupid equation instead of actually designing the level. And eventually it's going to start repeating planets with different colors. There's no way they will have that many unique, good-looking planets.
What I did bloody tell you.
Called it. Right here. Right here. Now, No Man's Sky isn't a bad game. Well, yeah, it is. It's terrible. 30 frames per second, a monstrous amount of poppin', though technically no loading screens, which is nice. The only actual loading screen is masked by the warp drive, like going to different star systems. Other than that, it's actually pretty seamless, but again, not impressive because everything looks so bad. It's a pretty hideous looking game. No Man's Sky's big gimmick is that it has 18 quintillion planets that are all procedurally generated by some algorithm that the developers made, and it's a gimmick, that's all it is. First of all, you're never ever gonna reach more than like 30 or 40 even if you do play the game, so why does that matter? Why does having such a big number matter? I don't see how that is in any way appealing to people. And the game is completely single player. As of right now, the game is completely single player. I'm gonna levy some false advertising charges on the dude who made this game because he said multiple times that there'd be multiplayer and just kind of tried to talk his way out of the fact that, oh, it's so unlikely it'll never happen, and then people made it so it happens, like, hey, why isn't this happening? And they're like, okay, there's no multiplayer, okay, I lied, I'm sorry, please don't send me to jail. Now, since the developers and the marketing failed in explaining what this game is in any way, shape, or form, that'll be my first step here. The gameplay in No Man's Sky is you have those little mining beams. You find a rock or a plant or something, and you, like, hold down right trigger to mine, and then depending upon what it is that you just mined, you'll get iron, or nickel, or copper, or carbon, or different minerals and elements. These are the resources of the game. Then you use this stuff to refill your life support, which is constantly draining, to refill your hazard protection, which is constantly draining, to refill your ship's fuel, which is constantly draining whenever you're flying the ship, to refill your ship's thrusters, and to repair shields and stuff like that. So you collect minerals and stuff to fix and repair and replenish everything that you need to use to then get more minerals. As you can see, this is kind of a repetitive self-serving gameplay loop that doesn't actually lead to anything. So what can you do with the minerals? Well, there are different upgrades to your ship and stuff. You can buy these guns for your ship, you can buy better shields, so you find little blueprints and stuff around the world, and it'll be like, oh, you can mine like 2.0% faster. And the actual goal, the objective in the game is to get to the galactic core, the center of the universe, for some reason. That's the only point in the game. You have to build as many warp cells as possible to fuel your hyperdrive so that you can eventually get to the galactic core, because jumping between a star system uses one warp cell. And you'll travel like 70 light years in one warp jump. And then it says like total distance to galactic core is like 270,000 or something ridiculous high number light years, so you can see this game's in it for the marathon, not the sprint. And that is pretty much all you do. You land on a planet, you mine stuff, you refill fuel, you get up, and you jump to a different warp system. There's these merchants, people they said like, oh, trade. It's not really trade. You can buy starships from people, like, oh, I have like 100,000 credits. How much will your starship cost? Like, oh, 7.5 million credits. I'm like, okay, never mind. I guess I'm quite happy with my starship, thanks. And to them you can sell stuff you've collected and you can buy minerals that you need that maybe you can't find. And that is it. Now there is space combat, and that was the only time I ever had fun in the game. It was like, oh, space pirates, I'm gonna go kick their asses. And I'm flying around and shooting lasers, and then all of a sudden my deflector shield's gone and then I blew up and 3 space pirates killed me. So during combat you have to like stop, go into your inventory, and use iron or something to refill your deflector shield, and then pop out and then actively play again. By the way, pausing the game doesn't pause the game. Using your inventory, game time's still going, so while you're doing that, you know, you're getting shot at. I guess it sounds kind of nice with the destruction and the lasers and the engines. And that's it. That's your game. There's your $60. It's not an exploration game, it's a survival game. It's collect things so that your rapidly depleting life support doesn't kill you. And that gets very repetitive, very tedious, and very annoying very, very quickly. And it makes the gameplay feel like a monotonous chore to stay alive. It's like you have to earn your right to keep living. And this is a very neat survival game that they've marketed as some super fun, grand space exploration adventure, and it is not that at all. I asked people who were excited for this, is like, what do you actually do? Is like, oh, you explore! I'm like, and find What? Why does it matter when there's 18 quintillion planets when all of them are barren purple wastelands? You have some different biomes, so the color palettes change a little bit, and sometimes there's trees, but for the most part, it's just dead land with minerals splattered everywhere, and then you'll find one little outpost, which consists of a building which may or may not have a dude where you can buy and sell stuff. But if for some reason that gameplay is appealing to you, it doesn't do that part even very well. And here's a bunch of problems that I came across. The sprint button is on the right stick. That's a big no-no. Your inventory system is ridiculously small. It is so restrictive, it fills up way too fast, and you're constantly throwing stuff out just so that you can get the slightly more important thing that you actually need versus something that might be useful later. Even the starship, which has this big rectangle with all these empty squares, still empty looking, but it says, oh, you've only got 12 spaces. But there's more than 12 spaces there, so... Especially when certain items take up an entire inventory things, like one dinky little fascination bead, which has gotta be, what, that big at max, takes up the same amount of space as, like, 200 pieces of iron. It's like, you can't stack individual items, you can't say fascination bead times 2, you can't say warp cell times 2. Oh, and by the way, every time you want to select or move anything, or do anything, you have to hold down A and hold down triangle to move, because it doesn't trust you to just push the button. It says, oh, you might do it by accident then, so we're gonna make you have a little circle. You know, like the iPhone loading screen, you get one of those every time you want to push a button, and it's very annoying. So what this game is the crafting system. And that's it. It's making the crafting system in another game its entire gameplay loop. And making warp cells has the Witcher 3 problem of going to way too many different ingredients. It's like, oh, first you use iron to make suspension fluid, then you use suspension fluid to make electronic vapor, and then you use electronic vapor to make antimatter, and then you combine your antimatter with a bunch of other things to make a warp cell. You can't save in your ship, you can only save on little beacons on the outpost planets. The one cool thing about this game is the little language learning thing. So when you talk to aliens, so over time as you talk to them and find little stones, you can learn new words, so it'll slowly piece in what they're saying, so it'll be like alien, 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 friend, alien, alien, alien. You'll learn the language, and I think over time, you know, if this was a game that I wanted to be invested in and keep playing, that would be a neat little mechanic. But buying stuff is also a colossal pain in the ass, because like I said, your inventory is probably already full, so you gotta throw out a bunch of stuff or sell it. No, but the stuff you want to sell, that's in your starship. Okay, so can I swap my starship inventory to my regular inventory? No, you can't. You gotta go back to your starship, because your starship's out of range. Free open some spaces, go back, swap in more stuff, and then go back. So you have to like walk back and forth between your starship and the shop. And this little hub, the Galactic Trade Network, it's called, has like limited quantities. It's like, is this not some super electronic like system that connects to all the other systems of selling stuff, but I can only buy 30 of something and then I'm capped out? In the Galactic Trade Network, spanning the entire galaxy, there's only 30 iron for sale. So when you go to an outpost, there's these little crates and boxes full of loot, and half the time you can't open them because they require an Atlas V1 pass, and when you can open them, half the time they're empty. The goal of the game is to get to the galactic core, and I'm sorry, that's not enough. That's not enough direction to make wandering this universe seem really pointless and boring and monotonous. Compare this game to something like Minecraft. Minecraft is, well, it's a third the price and runs at double the frame rate, so you're already getting some good grace points from me there. Minecraft has repetitive, monotonous digging, alright? You gotta mine through the rocks and you use those minerals to then build stuff. But there's a reason behind it. The more you mine, the more cool structures you can create. It is a creative sandbox. It's essentially virtual Legos. You can set your own goals. You can say, oh, I'm gonna write out this floor plan and I'm gonna build this and I'm gonna put chairs and paintings in it and stuff. And it's going to be this giant tower, and it's going to look f***ing awesome. And you can build another tower over here, and you can build a railroad that connects them, but oh, there's a water in the way. I got another project. I'll build a bridge, and then you feel a sense of accomplishment of setting and reaching goals. This is all the mining of Minecraft without any of the construction. You know, in Minecraft, and even the mining and the collecting you can make into creative projects. You can mine out this, hollow out this awesome, just Halls of Moria huge thing, have an underground city. In No Man's Sky, you'll have a rock that'll slowly, like, decay and break away where you shot it, and sometimes you'll just have plants that'll disappear, but if you back up too far from the rock, it'll fill itself back in because it's pop out, I guess. That's like the reverse of pop in. Not loading what you did to the world, that part of the world is missing until you get close enough, so you're like, oh, Heridium, and then you run over to it, I mean, you don't get that excited because it's Iridium. Come on. More like, oh, great, Iridium. And then you go over to mine it, and then you get closer, and then it disappears. You're like, oh, you already mined that. Sorry. You could also compare this game to something like Star Trek. Think of how cool an RPG Star Trek game would be if, you know, if it had the full budget, full everything. You know, where you're the captain and you give people orders in combat, and, like, when you're not in combat, you've got interpersonal relationships with your crew to manage, and there's dialogue choices, and there is a story, and you're getting orders that you've got to follow sent in from Starfleet. And you can send down away teams to collect stuff and look at stuff, and then there'll be all these side quests and all these alien species you can help out, but it'll be a fully voiced thing. Think of how expensive and cool that would be if you know, put a story into it instead of making it this dinky little procedurally generated Steam survival game. That's $60. It would be Skyrim in space, and it would be the best game ever. Somebody get on that, by the way. Full Star Trek RPG. I mean, there is a computer voice, but it basically amounts to the construct additional pylons from StarCraft telling you, you know, when you're running out of stuff and when you need stuff fixed. It's not a character with a personality. It's not a traveling companion, and it's got a really obnoxious voice. You know, you'd think by the time we've invented faster than light travel, we could have like a sexy, hot, like robot computer voice, or like an old British butler dude. And the game keeps throwing this journey milestone accomplished at you, and it's super dumb. And it's like, oh, you've discovered this beacon, you're such an explorer. Like, it's the same effing beacon on every other planet. Things you can name. You can name beacons, you can name outposts, you can name moons, you can name planets, you can name stars, and you can name star systems, but you can't name your ship. So if you want to call that giant red thing the big ball of puke, you can go ahead, but if you don't like the name Sasazima 336, then sorry, you're screwed. No Man's Sky is not even close to what it was advertised as. No Man's Sky is way too much for what it does offer, and No Man's Sky doesn't even do what little it offers well, and I cannot, for the life of me, recommend this really to anyone at all. And you know, because of all the false advertising bullshit everybody's participated in, you know, the developers, IGN hasn't been helping with IGN First, and Sony with the marketing budget, I sentence everybody involved in this game to jail. Also, because you make crappy video games, and you can't make more crappy video games to ruin and dilute the market when you're in jail.